Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heitz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
Oh, everybody, what's going on? Daniel J, myself, we're back for another week, guys. Another week of sweating things out. Unofficial Steelers Podcast. As you see by the title, we'll be talking about this previous game. We'll be talking about stuff going into the bye week. Daniel and I are doing the show a little bit earlier, just because I have to work this evening, and this time worked best for him to do. So good to see the few of you guys in the chat here. We'll see how many we get during the show. But hope you guys are doing well. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed your weekends. Daniel, what have you done since Sunday? What's been going on?
Well, I've been working on my content. Basically, I was doing some shows for the Drunk Turkey Show, but here recently, when it comes to the Steelers stuff, I basically broke down the passing game in the Steelers versus Ravens game, and I dropped that out last night.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
another week of looking at the film.
Yeah, and when it comes to games, looking at it firsthand, those games that are bad or seem to be bad aren't as bad when you look at the tape. And some of the games that you think that a player played really, really good, the tape might say something different. And so in this game, I thought that the offense actually played a little bit better than what they were showing. They were talking, the big conversation was that the Baltimore Ravens left a lot of points on the field, which they did, but so did the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had many of opportunities, the right play called, and either something happened, either the field wasn't read correctly or the receiver fell down, or in one situation, the ball got there a little bit too quick and the receiver fell down. So all those things are happening. And if they can just get those little bit of moments correct and get on the same page, I think this team can actually have a decent offense. But, you need those little things, those routine plays and routine things to happen routinely. And they're just not happening right now. It's not just all on the coordinator. It's not just all on the quarterback or the offensive line. And the offensive line, in my opinion, I think played quite a bit better this game, especially Broderick Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, guys, we'll be getting into that. Check that out on Daniel's channel. I only was able to watch just a couple minutes of it last night because I had a busy night. But it's always definitely good to see what Daniel's breaking down, what he's seeing, and definitely give some good context, insight on that stuff. So we'll be talking about it. Good to see you guys. George, Steeler fan, Afton, Jared Devil, Frosty. Good to see you guys. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Appreciate you guys hanging out here for a little bit with us. Give us your thoughts in the comment section on your guys' thoughts as we talk here, as we talk about week 5. Daniel, I'm going to say I'm honestly really glad we have a bye week. Usually when it comes to the bye week with the Steelers, it's kind of like, yeah, that sucks. They don't play this week. But I think with really where things are at, this might be more beneficial than not. Things have been, man, I'm kind of on and off with Colin Cowherd, but he kind of put it in a good way. Like, this team's 3-2, but they feel like they're 1-4. They feel like a team that should be 1-4, honestly. When we look at, yeah, and it's not that like there hasn't been good things this year. It's just them having to win by the skin of their teeth almost every game and needing things to fall their way to be able to score points, to be able to get a lead and stuff like that. It's hard. You're not going to win a lot of games with that type of formula. Mm-hmm. Not that the Steelers want to win games with that formula, but that's their current trajectory right now. So with them having the bye week, it's hard to say really what they'll all be able to get together. Obviously, they're able to rest a little bit, get healthy. It's another week for Cam Hayward to get healthy without them playing. Another week for Deontay to get himself back, which I'm honestly very excited to see him get back on the field. I think our offense has really missed him. But with his bye week, Daniel, do you think really anything's going to really get established on offense through this bye week? And as we see, because when we look at last year, after the Steelers bye week, not that the offense was where it needed to be, but it did get better. They were able to get some consistent points. They didn't turn over the ball too much. They ran the ball a lot better after the bye week last year, and they finished 6-2, right? 6, 7, 8, or 7-2, something like that. Their last 8, 9 games. Do you see it being something again this year after the bye this week, where they can maybe get some things better on offense? Where still not where it's not going to be where it needs to be this year, and I don't really think anybody should have had those expectations this season. But do you think that it will be a little bit maybe of a replication last year, where they're able to take another week off and sit down and be able to go over, work together, figure out maybe certain things they want to do different? Do you think there's gonna be something different on offense, or you think it's just gonna kind of be what it is?
Well, there's two pieces that need to go into that. Yes, last year the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to turn it around after the bye. We anticipated that. A lot of that was opponents, before the bye, and while Kenny Pickett was, starting, the opponents that he went up against were four of the top teams in the NFL at the time. And, going in that second half of the season, the opponents weren't as difficult. And then you also had a lot of the what's it called? The divisional games, where those games, the teams know each other better than any other teams, right? And so that's why you end up getting some wonky stuff that happens, like a fourth place team competing with a first place team in their division, and that's just because of familiarity, right? This year, I think that the poor start has to do with a couple of things. I think the team's playing bad, yes, and I think that getting Deontay Johnson back is going to help. They had this entire offseason. They worked out this game plan, and I think Deontay Johnson was supposed to be a huge part of that game plan. Yeah. So him being out just kind of put a big wrench in that to begin with. So him coming back is going to help. But there's also the fact that there's tape out there now, and defenses know strengths, weaknesses, tendencies. One thing that I had noticed when I was breaking down the film was, and it was on the first down of the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was that, and it was actually a good thing. The Ravens were trying to show the Pittsburgh Steelers that they were playing single high safety, man on man, with press on George Pickens in efforts to get him to throw the deep ball there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he read it right, or if he just got lucky, or if he thought that the safety, which was Kyle Hamilton in this specific play, who was covering Connor Hayward, who was the slot guy who ended up making the catch. I don't know if maybe he thought, if it is man coverage, Hamilton is way deep. The route is like a 5 and then cut to the sideline. So, it's going to be a bit for him to get there. Or if he saw that it was, in fact, a zone play and threw it to the right player to get out. Either way, the play worked, right? But in that situation, they were trying to tempt Kenny Pickett to go deep. Mm-hmm. And had he done that, there would have been an opportunity there for a pick easily. And he didn't do it. He didn't bite it. Every other play after that, if it was man coverage on George Pickens, he got the ball. The ball was to him. Even if it wasn't the best idea, it appeared that it was like predetermined. If George Pickens is one-on-one, you throw it to him. And I think getting Deontay Johnson back, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have, hey, if Deontay Johnson's one-on-one, throw it to him. If Pickens is one-on-one, you're going to have like, hey, you're going to have to read the field a little bit and decide which one you're going to throw to. And if you have double coverage on one, you're throwing to the other. And I think that's going to help out this offense as well, and Kenny's progression. I don't think it's a lost cause on the season or anything like that. I know that the offense played bad, but I do think they can get better. Will it be a completely different transformation from last year? I don't think so. It's kind of like last year they were so bad. They made a huge step forward. To make a huge step forward to that extent this year, just after the bye, I don't see it. I think that step should have been already kind of seen.
Right.
Just because Pickett has had the entire off season. He was the number one guy throughout training camp, number one guy throughout preseason. This offense was tailor made for him, his likes, his dislikes, the whole 9 yards. We were expecting to see a jump come week one. Now, it didn't happen. I don't expect that there's going to be a huge jump just between 1 week to the next. Could there be some small jumps that could equal out to a big jump throughout the year? I think so. I think that's possible. But I think we have to manage our expectations. This team's not going to go from scoring 13, 12 points offensively to 25 from 1 week to the next, even though they get a break. I think that there's going to be some games where they score that amount, and it's not going to be consistent. But can they get to a point where they're scoring at least 20 points a game? I think so.
Okay.
And, so we'll see if the defense can hold up until then. That's going to be the other issue.
Yeah.
But I think that it's just making some small steps. It's just kind of making them slow. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, as we can tell on Sunday during the game, fans were not too patient.
Mm-hmm.
Right after their first drive or two, where they pretty much didn't do anything, fans already breaking out with Fire Canada and everything like that. And probably loud as it can be. Actually, during the Penguins game last night, I watched a little bit of it, but didn't watch it where they were chanting it. But everybody's fed up. Everybody's fed up, and understandably so, man. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to see potential there on the field on offense. Nobody would change my mind, man. I think the Steelers have some good talent on offense. I do. I think they have a good core of guys. Is it great? No, but I think it's still one of the better young cores in the league in terms of talent at tight end and receiver. And I think both our backs are quality guys. But it's frustrating because not just that there's potential, but when you're at 3 points throughout the whole entire game up until the fourth quarter, when you're bottom of the league again in points, it's definitely frustrating. Do you think that if they lost this game, you think actually Canada would have been fired?
No, I don't think he would have been fired. Before the season started, and even last year, I asked a question out there, and to myself, do I honestly think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to panic during midseason and fire a coordinator? I don't think so. Now, is there possible that they're going to bring in help? Yeah, I think that's a huge possibility. I've already heard some rumors that the Steelers have sent out some feelers to some other individuals, one of them being, it's just a rumor. I don't know how true it is. But from my ties with Steel Current Network, that Ben Roethlisberger was approached by the Pittsburgh Steelers to see if he would be the play caller, and he declined because he's got his kids and things of that nature. So I don't know how true that is. I didn't get that information myself, but one of the guys that I work with throughout the Steel Current Network did. And if that's true, I mean, I don't think he's going to be the only guy that the Pittsburgh Steelers have reached out to. And I think that if they're reaching out to anybody in general, then that's going to be a sign that they don't trust him as well as far as a play caller, and that they're looking to get him some help at the very least throughout the season. Now, do I think if they would have lost this game? No, I don't think he would have. And, and to talk about your deal about, or your statement about the talent around the quarterback and on this team, I honestly, looking at it from a non-biased perspective, taking my black and gold goggles off, I'm not seeing the talent being there as you call it. The wide receiver room, I mean, with Deontay Johnson back, that's definitely going to help. But up to this point, not having him there, just kind of relying on George Pickens, where his certain skill set is, contested catches, going deep sometimes, doing the sideline tiptoe things. He's not the best route runner, so to speak. Calvin Austin is a speed guy that's going to take the top off of defenses, but he's also not that Deontay Johnson type, Antonio Brown type of receiver whose responsibility is to get open and be dependable every single play, right? Mm-hmm. Like Deontay Johnson, you can depend on him to get open. Now, can you depend on him to catch the ball in those weighty moments? That's yet to be seen at this point of this year. Najee Harris, I think he's slow. I think he's slow. Um, I think that, you see what Jalen Warren is able to do, even when the box is loaded, even when there's a time, like for instance, one of his bigger runs, a uh, a defender hit him a yard and a half in the backfield. Everybody's been saying, oh, put Jalen Warren back there. And if he gets hit 1.5 yards behind in the backfield, what is he going to do? Right. That happened. Now, sure, is there times where he's going to get tackled? Yeah, of course. But I hadn't seen a situation where Najee Harris was able to circle out of a tackle in the backfield, run to the outside, beat everybody, and run up for a first down. It hadn't happened. And so, and not saying that he can't do it. We did see the play where Najee reverse field the other couple of games ago, and he got a big yard or a big gain, and that happens. But is that the exception or is that the rule when it comes to Najee? Is that happening more often than not, or is that just by happenstance? And I think with Jalen Warren, those type of things are happening more often than not, and those aren't just being happenstance or the action. So I do think that they have a pretty good running back in Jalen Warren. I think Najee has a specific skill set, and if he's used correctly, can have a on the team and do well. But in my opinion, I don't think he was worth that the first round draft pick that they got him for. It just hasn't worked out for him that way. And then the offensive line, the right tackle, Chukwuekorfor, and your center, Mason Cole, you're not going to have much success with those two guys.
Right.
That's just the truth. Mason Cole has been a complete disappointment this year. He has, I think he has brought down Isaac Seumalo and James Daniel with his poor play. They're having to cover up for him, so it's making them look worse. And Chukwuekorfor, he was the sore thumb out there, very visible as far as who's the least, who's doing the least in their play. So I think there's quite a bit of holes on this offense. And, maybe perhaps you get a right tackle and a center somewhere soon, or maybe if Spencer Anderson can come up and you can develop him and he doesn't get pushed around as much as Mason Cole. I think just that alone, Mason Cole and Deontay Johnson, that could turn this team around. A new center, if they've been developed and Deontay Johnson in there, I think that'll definitely help. But it's definitely more than the quarterback, than the offensive coordinator. It's a combination of a lot of things when it comes to this offense, and it's just and none of it is firing on the same cylinder. Everything is misfiring at different times, and so you're getting a result of like three and out, and if a team gets in trouble, they can't come out of it.
Right. Yeah, it makes you kind of wish they took Creed Humphrey, huh?
Dude, they had two opportunities, and I think
I wanted them to take him the second round.
Yeah, they should have. They should have taken him the first round. They should have taken him the second round. Even Pat Freiermuth, I think he's been an excellent pass catcher at times. I've seen him drop the ball. The biggest thing that was coming out of college was that all he does is catch the ball in the red zone. And, that first year, it seemed like that was the case his rookie year. But since then, he's had a couple drops, and his blocking ability is just subpar. At this point, I think I'd prefer to have Darnell Washington out there over Pat Freiermuth, just based on that. Because when you have a one tight end set out there and you're trying to, run a running play and block somebody, it's just not happening with Pat Freiermuth. And if you just have him in there for pass plays only or whatnot, or if he's your first string guy and he comes out and Darnell comes in, then everybody's going to know that, that's a run play. If you have Darnell first, actually throw him the ball, I mean, you might know it's a run play when Pat Freiermuth is there, but it's not going to be predictable every single play like it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a predicament. I don't think Freiermuth is going to be back for the next game. At least it doesn't seem like it right now. Right? I don't think he's going to. Probably the week after. I was going to ask you this. George brought it up. Wouldn't they put Dan Moore at right tackle? Daniel, there's no possible way that the next game that they put Dan Moore back at left tackle. There's no way.
At left tackle, no. I wouldn't even put him at right tackle. The reason being is when he played on the right side, when Chooks went down with a concussion, Dan Moore didn't do so great. I think Broderick Jones actually did better on the right side in favor of Dan Moore. And the reason being is because Broderick Jones has played the right side more frequently. In Georgia, he had to play the right side. I think it was like one practice every week, and it was padded practice every day. So he got his full reps of being on the right side, but his specialty is the left. You don't really want to take him out of there. But if you had no choice, and your two tackles were Dan Moore and Broderick Jones, I think you move Broderick Jones over to the right side and Dan Moore to the left. I think Dan Moore on the right side is more of a liability than what Broderick Jones can bring you of him staying on the left side.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I was really excited to see Broderick Jones start this game. And even when you look back at, yeah, you were told by me, I said Dan Moore was the next Joe Thomas. You're right. Yeah. I definitely said that, Z. I definitely said that.
Ben seems to think so, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they probably text each other every week. So that's probably why. Z, I think that you got to worry about your own stuff, my friend. Maybe have your receivers learn to catch pass. But I was very impressed with Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones is really young, but he's got to play, especially after playing as well as he did against a solid pass rush so far this season. Got to give him credit. Got to give him credit for how good he played. You guys can look back and look at different parts of his film. He had some really nice blocks, some really nice job getting some edge rushers to the outside, not letting them come in on the quarterback, gave Kenny a little bit more time. Bring back Stickum. Ravens do have the third highest drop rate. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. They just cannot figure out wide receiver. But yeah, Broderick Jones has to play. It's part of his development. It's part of the fact you drafted this guy at 14 to be your franchise left tackle. I want to see him play left tackle the whole year. Okorafor, Moore, whatever you want to do with those guys, depending who plays better, you do what you got to do.
Did you hear what supposedly Joey Porter said to Odell Beckham on the interception?
I saw that, but I saw like somebody say like it said like it wasn't like real, like he didn't actually say.
I don't know. I think he would have. I've heard that he's a talker on the field.
Yeah,
he's
OBJ
quiet.
Once again, irrelevant and
Yeah,
got banged up and everything like that. But the guy wants $18 million, right?
yeah.
He wants $18 million. My ass. The guy. Listen, when it comes to OBJ, he's had some good moments in his career, but he's never been a top wide receiver. I don't care what anybody says. He had a very small sample size in the Giants and certain good things. He had a great catch, but he could never stay on the field. He never, in my opinion, he never got himself to the likes of Julio and AB and a Brandon Marshall, a Demaryius Thomas. Like I would take those guys all day over Odell when they were playing.
Yeah, Odell was a good receiver when he was with Eli. And when he wasn't with Eli,
he had a few good years there. He could just never stay on the field. But I in terms when he was playing with him, he was always looked at as a top 3 wide receiver, top 5. I never saw it. Never saw it as that. So he didn't do enough for me during his time in those years, during kind of his prime years. He never did enough for me to qualify him as that. And then as his career went on and on and on, couldn't stay on the field, just wanted more money, and the guy hasn't been relevant since 2018. So Odell fleecing money for the Ravens, yeah, he really is. But Daniel, when it came to still talking about this Ravens game, did you have a feeling like it was gonna kind of start getting out of hand at some point when our offense just was really non-existent, and it was going to get to the point where the defense was going to be just shut down, and maybe Lamar was just going to run, or they were just be able to get a game-ending touchdown or something?
Well, there's reasons why I don't do live broadcast play-by-play during the regular season, because yeah, there was a lot of doubt, and I expressed it quite openly, and it was more than just fire Canada from what I was saying. And so, it was a very disappointing start off to the game. It was very blah. The team just didn't look like they were in it. It just seemed like another flat-footed performance by the offense early on. And it appeared that the Ravens were going to run away with it. Yeah. I saw them making their mistakes, but I thought eventually they were going to settle down and stop making them. The Steelers, adjusted. The I think that the Baltimore Ravens didn't get a first down or didn't convert a third down the second half at all. And so is that because of the adjustments, or is that because Joey Porter Jr. was starting in the second half?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a big
something to think about, but I was impressed. I think the guy's been nothing but has impressed.
Exactly.
I don't understand why Terrell Austin continues to say he's not ready. I don't understand it.
I think it's a tackling thing, but Patrick Peterson isn't the greatest tackler either.
Yeah, but when you look at Joey Porter, at least Joey Porter's when you look at like Levi Wallace, I won't even say Patrick Pearson. When you look at like Levi Wallace, he's just letting open too much space for guys, and he is not recovering back into where he's supposed to be at. Meanwhile, Joey Porter, at least for the certain sample size that he's shown, it's not even comparable in the sense of what Joey Porter's doing against wide receivers and man coverage, for example, versus what a Levi Wallace is doing against wide receivers and man coverage. Even Patrick Pearson's another guy that's letting up too much space. That's letting guys get behind him. Joey Porter's at least doing a good job of body adjustment. He's doing a good job at keeping wide receivers in front of him. And now when Joey Porter came in the game, because I didn't see like anything that came out in the sense that Levi Wallace got injured. Did Levi more so get benched in that role? And they said, all right, we're going to get Joey at your time. Or I don't know. Like I didn't see anything come out that Levi Wallace got banged up. But when Joey Porter came in, he obviously was effective right away and had a great interception in the end zone. I don't really think it was that good of a ball from Lamar in general, but the fact that he got Odell to have to because it was supposed to be like a back shoulder throw or something like that, and the way that he got himself in front of Odell, where Odell could not adjust to the ball being in the air, and Joey Porter came down with the pick and everything like that. Like, first of all, that was impressive nonetheless, but even aside from that point, I liked what I saw out there, but I just don't know if Levi got benched or not.
With that play though, it doesn't matter where the ball's going. He could have faded it up higher. He could have thrown it low. He could have thrown it back shoulder. JPJ had perfect position. That ball was going to get intercepted if it went that direction, unless it was 12 feet in the air. So if it was in any radius for Odell Beckham to catch, that was going to get intercepted. And as far as the benching goes, I think the combination of Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson is what got benched. Right now, what I think is they put in Joey Porter Jr. Now, his strong suit is, I don't know if it's the right side or left side, depending on which way you're looking at the formation, but it was Patrick Peterson's side. If you're looking at things, it would have been the right side. If you're with the defense, it's on the left. So he replaced Patrick Peterson's position. Patrick Peterson ended up swapping back and forth with Levi Wallace. So I think that he took the first team and the other guys are now fighting for second.
Gotcha.
That's the way it looks like to me. And I think that's the way I'm a little bit disappointed that it hasn't happened sooner, given his ability and what he's shown. Now, would he have played this well if he would have started off, week one? Maybe not. I don't know. That question about experience or, waiting to learn has been debated for years. Everybody's different. I tend to think that a player, you don't get better at football unless you play football. So throw him out there, let him get some experience. And if he struggles and he can't handle it, then he's not a good football player, in my opinion. I don't like the whole stigma of like, hey man, you don't want to get this guy disappointed too early or whatever. He's a football player. He's supposed to be a man. Handle your adversity. If you can't handle your adversity, you can't handle the downs. The character of a person is how they get up, not what happens when they get down. And if, a player is down and they're crying or complaining or blaming coaches or whatever the case may be, then they're not a good football player. And they weren't going to make it regardless of who was there. They're eventually going to go through some adversity in their career. And, I'd rather have that adversity and see how this person reacts to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, no, 100%. It's going to be interesting. Like, I don't know. I feel like coming out of the bye, I could easily see them going Peterson, Levi Wallace again, maybe getting Porter some more reps and stuff like that. But it should just be the other way around. It really should. And I think anybody can see it. I don't understand the philosophy or the mental type aspect that Terrell Austin's talking about of Porter's not ready. Like kind of what's making Terrell Austin think that. We don't know what's going on in practice, stuff like that. But when it's coming to the games and everything, it's showing for itself. The guy needs more playing time. The guy should probably be a starter. Elite and Broderick Jones seems to solidify himself as that. Keanu Benton has kind of been that. Even when Cam Hayward comes back, he's still going to be the guy there. So it's definitely positive coming from those three guys in the sense of rookies making an impact like that. But really, also another big thing that came from this game was the game-winning touchdown at the end of the game. Now, when that happened, we saw Matt Canada's reaction in the box wasn't pretty baseless. Didn't show any emotion. Kind of sat there. A lot of people were speculating that if he didn't call it, Kenny audibled it. Maybe it was Glenn Thomas that called it. Maybe Matt did call it, but he was thinking about the 2-point conversion. Daniel, when now they have come out and have said that they shifted the line and Kenny told George Pickens to, hey, look the matchup you're in, hit the go route. I'm going to hit you. Gave him whatever signal with his hand to him, stuff like that. That's what they came out and said. So technically it wasn't audible, but it was also something that seemed that whatever play they were there, it was like, okay, the audible's there as well if we need it.
Right.
So with that being said, it seems like it was something where whatever play they called, you had option B if something's there, and he did audible it, but if Canada was the one that called it, that clearly was something installed. Do you kind of buy that, or do you think that what was kind of how'd you feel about that? How'd you feel about the play first of all when it happened, and then second of all, do you think that are you buying what the players are saying?
All right. First, I want to ask you a question. Last year, there was a play where Chase Claypool threw a touchdown, a left-handed pass. Remember that play?
Which one?
The one where Chase Claypool threw a touchdown before he got traded.
Oh yeah, in the Philly game, yeah.
Yeah, and they panned up to Matt Canada, and he threw his thing down and was like, yeah.
Right.
What was your response? Because I remember you telling me. I remember your response. What was your response then?
I'm gonna let me think if I can remember it. I think I said that. I don't think that I can fully remember it, but I'm sure it was something in the sense of like the guy was like just how he was like. I feel like I said something where hold on. I feel like I said something where it was like him celebrating like that when we're down like 34 to 3 or 6 or something like that, whatever the score was, because it was kind of a blowout at that point. It was starting to get to a blowout. Maybe it was like 20 to something at that time.
Right. The Steelers were, when they did that, they were kind of not out of reach. But you said, don't F and celebrate. What the F have you done to celebrate? Okay. So I don't remember if there was that many F-bombs, but I'm pretty sure there was. I got to look back at the box. But I was like,
I was probably just annoyed, dude, freaking pissed off or something.
So if he celebrates,
right,
it's wrong. If he doesn't celebrate, it's wrong. Right. So this guy can't do anything right. Now,
well, Daniel, he's shown he can't do anything right anyway. So
right, exactly. In the eyes of the fans, he's never going to do anything right. No. But when it comes down to that play and his celebration, or let's go to the play. Was there an audible? I know that there was the call Randy, which apparently was to shift protection to the right.
Shift the line, yeah.
And apparently he did like the OK sign upside down, like this.
Yeah. He gave the thing with his hand, yeah.
Yeah, and which meant cover zero. Apparently they had been practicing throughout this entire week that during some of the waiting moments, Baltimore likes to run a cover zero. And if they see that look, that this is the play they're going to run. Now, who implemented that?
Well, I would definitely say, I would imagine it would be considering that everybody thinks that Canada's still the main guy implementing everything. I would give credit to him.
Right. So he implemented that if you see this look, this is what you do. So isn't that his play or his call?
Yeah, it would still be a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if he doesn't tell Kenny Pickett, this is, the route you're going to do, or, the options are different, and the play doesn't happen. So it happens because they got a look that they were prepared for, and the offensive coordinator implemented that audible in there. So regardless of whether or not that was the original play that was called into the huddle or not, it was still Matt Canada's design and Matt Canada's play for the situation. That
Right.
play call was a call that's to be called if this situation occurs. And it worked. I don't understand why everybody's complaining about one thing or another about it. It worked. The only thing that I can complain about is that this team is they can only survive by splash plays.
Yeah. And you can't be doing that.
Yeah, it's not a formula for success for long. And doing those type of plays, or those plays working and getting chunk yards and stuff, is great, but they also need to put a drive together. And
yeah,
it's been few and far in between where the Pittsburgh Steelers have drove down the field, took up more than 2 minutes of time of possession, and scored a touchdown.
Right.
A lot of their touchdowns came from long distance, and the times that they have, implemented a drive, gone down the field, it ended up in field goals. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. I think the original, at least I would assume that the original intent was probably just to get them in field goal range and kick a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, okay, we see this, go ahead, do your thing, do your shtick, whatever you got to do. When that happened, I didn't really care that Canada, like, I wasn't like, oh, dude, Canada should be celebrating. Because you see stuff like that happen in the league, coordinators or play callers, right? They're just nonchalant about it, stuff like that. I think it was something where I was like, wow, I'm kind of surprised he's just kind of sitting there, given the fact that how close of a game this is, and everybody else is going crazy about it because it was a big play that finally paid off, and everything. So I didn't care that he didn't celebrate or anything. Like, coordinators, like, hey, like, you're thinking about the next thing, right? You should be, at least, right? It was just interesting to speculate about, and I think people do too, just because, like, when stuff works out, I think people speculate sometimes when, like, certain things good happen in the offense, like, okay, was that Matt Canada, or was that, was it Glenn Thomas, was it Pickett, right? Was it, whoever? Just, I think everybody's so numb to just him just being bad. And then when something good happens or something finally works and stuff like that, you kind of put your thought to somebody else, right? Getting the credit.
What would you think if they get a new guy? Let's just say
next year.
Next year, and the result's the same.
Say, well, if they get somebody new and it's still kind of a stalled offense, be a lot more deeper issues than just who's ever there. Like, and I'm not even gonna, like, let's say that they bring somebody in that is outside this organization, and, like, I'm not even gonna go with this question in the sense of that they have somebody there and they're running a similar thing with some new stuff. Like, let's talk, like, let's have it be somebody completely new. I feel like it makes for a better conversation. Somebody completely new revamps this whole offense with a whole new system, new design, whatever it is that you're trying to do, and stuff still isn't good. Obviously, it would be a lot deeper of a problem in terms of talent based, in terms of them not, like, maybe just not having the right talent trying to do what you want to do. But I would hope that they would not be inept enough to where, like, if they would do that, and that they would not be inept enough to go get guys that match whatever they're trying to do. But it would be concerning. It would be a matter of what's not working, who's not good, who's not putting it together on the field with what they're trying to do. And then you would have to make those decisions based off that. But I think at the end of the day, though, I think Canada's done, though. I think he is. I don't think there's any way, even if let's say the Steelers win 10 games, make the playoffs, I don't think there's any way he comes back. I really don't. I
don't think that he's coming back either. I really don't.
And there's just too much, man. There's too much baggage. There's too much stuff there, too much disgruntledness. Even stuff that you've told me that you've heard about in terms of some guys just saying like, dude, I can't work with the guy. I can't, like, it's not going well. Like we're not getting on the same page. It's not what we want to do, or whatever that conversation is with those guys. I don't know. But I think it's just too much to bring him back. Like, you just got to go your separate way. But he still should be coaching for and playing for, well, not playing for, but coaching for a future opportunity in this league down the line. That's what he should be. That should be his mindset. Is, look, I'm probably not coming back. I'm going to do what I can this year, but it's just like, it's like who's like, it kind of goes with even players in general. Maybe you bring somebody in for a couple weeks, like Brad Wing, right? They brought him in, and it's something like, okay, I'm getting this opportunity. I know I'm not going to be here once Presley Harvin comes back, but I'm going to pump my ass off and have other teams see me. And either next year coming into the season, or maybe another point in the year where another team needs a punter, they're going to see me. So Matt Canada, I'm sure he should have that mindset, at least in the sense of still wanting to coach his ass off for an opportunity. But I just don't think he just meets the NFL level right now, man. I really don't. I think he's just tailored for a lower level of football.
I mean, that's possible. I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is just basically because are the plays simple? Yeah. Are they predictable? 100%. But the question has to be why. Is it solely because he's a crappy ass, offensive coordinator, has to look at Madden playbooks to call a play? Like, is that the reason why? Or is the reason why it's so simple because the offense can't grasp anything else that's complicated? And my thing is, if you bring in another complicated, offensive coordinator who can do a lot of things, part of the issue is going to be Mike Tomlin. You're never going to get a great offensive coordinator to come here, because great offensive coordinators want to be head coaches.
Right.
Now, maybe perhaps you'll have one come here for a year and then leave if they end up doing something well with the team, and they're going to be a coach future down the line. So we're not going to have anything stable. Let me rephrase that. We'll never have an offensive coordinator that's stable in Pittsburgh. The only teams that have a stability in the offense are where the head coaches are offensive minded, because they're the ones running the show.
Right.
Mike Tomlin isn't that. So who do you think they're going to replace Matt Canada with? They're not going to replace Matt Canada with a current offensive coordinator who's doing good shit out there. That's not going to happen, because they're going for head coach jobs. So you're going to have to find somebody underneath that, maybe a quarterback coach somewhere or a college coach somewhere, and hope that you strike gold. That's kind of what they did with Matt Canada. They brought him in. He was a college coach. At that time, everybody was like, hey, let's Kingsbury and all these guys that came up from college, they know the modern NFL. Let's go get ourselves a college coach. And now we're seeing a college playbook. So, it's going to be difficult while Mike Tomlin is there. And, the Steelers are just going to have to, in my opinion, when this team becomes relevant again, it's probably when Mike Tomlin's not the coach anymore. This is when you're probably bringing in somebody who is offensive minded and that can really do something with this team. Like, for instance, and I'm going to ask you this. If the Steelers, let's just say Mike Tomlin were to resign tomorrow and the Steelers go out and get the Houston offensive coordinator and make him our head coach. He's part of the Shanahan tree and all this other stuff. And let's just say he gets the Steelers to the playoffs and win a playoff game or even a Super Bowl. Would you consider that team or that person having won a Super Bowl with Mike Tomlin's team?
I'm gonna say no, just because Tomlin's team wasn't accomplishing anything.
Exactly. And when you look at what Tomlin's teams have done, he hasn't done anything since the players and the coaching staff that Bill Cowher had acquired were gone. Right. And then you also look at Kevin Colbert, right? If you look at his last drafts, he hadn't done anything. He hadn't drafted a first rounder worthy of the pick, in my opinion, since 2017. And that was TJ Watt, who fell to them. Omar Khan, I think he did a better job this year. I've liked what he's done. I've liked the players that he's My opinion, if you look at the last 5, take TJ Watt out of it, you look at the last 5 drafts that Kevin Colbert did in the first 2 rounds, I think George Pickens is probably his best player.
Yeah.
That he drafted.
You
And that was in the second round and, coming off an ACL and the whole 9 yards. So, there was question marks there. That's why he fell to the second round.
Yeah.
But, this team wasn't very well built in the last part of Kevin Colbert's tenure. They avoided the offensive line. They avoided the defensive line. And it's just going to take some time. But I have questions, about the quarterback. But with that said, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be an offensive mind that's going to be able to take this team and turn it into a Super Bowl contender this year.
Yeah, no, definitely not this year. I don't think anybody should have had Super Bowl expectations this year. I think most of us, I think the most favorable expectation this year was that they would be better than last year. But there's still going to be things that hold them back. And we're seeing that on offense, which the offense is actually worse than I actually thought it would be. I still didn't think the offense was going to be what it needed to be going in the year, but I thought, okay, the offense is kind of here. Maybe it goes up to like here. And it hasn't done that. The offensive line so far hasn't played up to what a lot of people thought it would. Now it definitely can. I think there's a common denominator or two on that offensive line that's kind of holding it back. I think James Daniels has been better than maybe what some might think. Broderick Jones had a really good impression. Isaac Seumalo's been really good these last 3 weeks. And it's hard when you have the heart of your line playing like dog piss and kind of blowing his assignments and everything. And you have other people trying to pick up those pieces, and it's not really good. So you make a good point on the offensive coordinator situation of going into next year. Like, who could they ultimately get? It's definitely something that is going to be an interesting conversation after the year. And I hope they don't go the direction of just putting Glenn Thomas there. I hope they really explore all options. I'm not saying that he should not get it. I don't know much about him. I know he was with the Chargers before we brought him in, but I just hope they explore all options.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And
food for thought. I believe Cowher had 1 year left on his contract when he retired. And I believe they had asked him for a contract extension prior to that year or the year before. And he said no. I think his wife was coming down with, some illnesses. And he wanted to spend some more time. And so he opted out. But Mike Tomlin's coming in on his last year of his contract. He didn't, extend him this offseason. According to Rooney, he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers coach as long as he wants.
Is next year the last year of his deal?
Mike Tomlin, yeah.
Okay.
So they haven't extended him. Is there a possibility that, I think I
was going to ask you this last week, and I forgot.
Yeah. Is there a possibility that Mike Tomlin might be gearing up to leave on his own accord? I don't know anything about college. I know his son plays receiver for Maryland. When is he good enough to be in the league? And if so, when is he to get in here? Because maybe that's what he's aiming for, is that maybe once his son enters the league, he doesn't want to coach against them or do any of those type of things.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting that he didn't take an extension. I'd say it's still probably favorable that he does, but it's an interesting topic conversation if he goes into next year just with 1 year left on his deal and there's no extension this summer or anything like that. It's definitely, I think it'd be kind of hard to believe in the sense of like Tomlin not being that coach because he's been here for so freaking long. I don't know. Like if he would just go into a new coaching opportunity, or I know there was one time, I think like 5 years ago, there was some talk about a TV personality role, like what some other coaches have done, like a Sean Payton's done, and a few other coaches from the past. I don't really know. I think Tomlin's been wearing a little bit on some fans, more fans than what previously has. I think it's just because it feels stale. It feels robotic. it feels same thing, different year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Winning record, falling short, or not making the playoffs, or being one and done in the playoffs, and there's just no ultimate growth. Which I get. Honestly, dude, it's giving a little bit of Andy Reid in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
giving that. Yeah, it's giving that. And I'm not opposed. Like if Mike Tomlin doesn't want to come back, and maybe there's like just a mutual thing, Tomlin's going to move on, Steelers move on, or even if the Steelers just want him to come back and maybe he just moves on, whether he retires or coaches somewhere else or TV or entertainment, whatever he does. I'm not opposed to that happening just because all good things have to end.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in a situation where we'll say since 2018, because 2018 they went 9. What would they go in 2016? 2018 they went. What did they go? They had a tie that year and they just missed out on playoffs. You remember that the Ravens won that game in 2018,
Yeah,
and the Steelers were watching on the field on the scoreboard, and the Ravens got in that year.
yeah.
So since then, the Steelers have just kind of been a 500 team, and there hasn't really been anything that has taken them to the next level. There hasn't really been anything that has. It's just kind of been stagnant. That's kind of what
Mm-hmm.
it's been. So I think more fans are starting to open up, like if that becomes a possibility of being okay with that. And it's not like, oh, dude, like I don't like Mike Tomlin. It's just like, dude, like everything's got to come to an end.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely
It's
right.
just the way it
And
is.
it's come to the point where his Tomlinisms have been said so much, they're becoming frustrating. Like,
Yeah.
like, all right, man, you're a
Every
bunch of talk.
Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
And
like you're a bunch of talk. Let's see something. Let's see something.
right. All
It's getting
changes are coming, and
it's like I think it was like 2015, 16, somewhere around there. Well, Steelers weren't doing so well, and he's like, "We're gonna raise hell in December," and we freaking went winless. So, it is what it is.
yeah.
But it's kind of like in the movie Batman. You die a hero or live long enough to be the villain, and I think that's kind of be the situation here. He was either going to get, let go, fired, and everybody was going to love him. Kind of like Bill Cowher. He was on top of his game when he left. Everybody wanted him back. Now, there was a time in his career where everybody wanted him when the Steelers were going 6-10 and things of that nature. But, at the time when he left, he went at the top of his game and everybody loved him. Everybody, I think there was people holding hope that after Tomlin's first contract was up, that Bill Cowher would come back. And so that he'd just take some time off and he'd come back and that'd be what it is. And, I don't think that's going to be the same situation here. It's kind of like with Ben Roethlisberger. I think if Ben Roethlisberger retired in 2019 when his elbow went out, what they knew of him was great stuff and they'd be calling him for him back, but he came back. We don't hear anybody saying to bring Ben back. It's for a reason. And, when you've, stayed your time and overstayed it, that's when it becomes, everything's great while you're there, while you're one. When you're not, it's
just how it is. And it's not something of not being appreciative of things or, like being able to appreciate the good years and stuff like that. It's just something where league changes, things change, way coaching in the league changes, and we're seeing it now. Sometimes it's just you just have to go in a different direction. And Steelers Freak actually kind of brought up Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin. Even the Patriots, I don't know, maybe they're in kind of the same situation. Like it kind of just, it seems like the game's just kind of passing them up more. Like they don't want to change. They stick to their bubble. They stick to what they know. They stick to what they know worked. But you're in 2023 now, and the game's just really changed over the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not the same. Afton says, what do you think of John Gruden? Man, I don't think they bring him in just because of all his freaking baggage, man. That ain't happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is not happening. I like John Gruden a lot when he was an analyst. I thought that he did a good job on Monday Night Football. But his downfall at the Raiders, I don't see that guy getting the league ever again. Jared Devil, you were at the game, right? I'm pretty sure you said we're at the game. So how was it? Did you enjoy your time? Let's see. Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things, man, of where I think people are just frustrated that the Steelers are just kind of sticking in their own bubble. Like
Mhm.
having Omar Khan has kind of felt like a breath of fresh air over the offseason. Same with bringing in Andy Weidel from Philadelphia. But fans want more than that. And
Mhm.
I get the feeling from fans that they're tired of Rooney. Rooney kind of operates just in the way of loyalty, the way that his family's operated in. And I still think that they're great ownership. I really do. But it doesn't mean that you have to abide by every single rule of the book
Mhm.
and have to keep everything the same way that like your family has. Like you don't have to do that. And same with Mike Tomlin. Like they're all about the loyalty and not giving up and this and that. If they go by their rule book of not firing coaches, then how come how come that doesn't abide for players? Chase Claypool should still be here then.
Oh
if,
gosh.
if, that's what they want to do, that they don't let them fire people and stuff like that, why do you trade or release players? What's the
Yeah.
difference ultimately? Like I don't. I don't really think any Steeler fan really ultimately has the answer as to why the Steelers just want to stick in their own way and at least not venture into some different mentalities compared to how other teams do it. And I think,
Mhm.
and we all know it's hurting them than not, and it's setting them back than not. So they're at a point again where they're 3-2. Okay. It doesn't feel like 3-2. All we can hope is that maybe things get ridged out more after the bye week. I think defensively, their pass rush is lethal. Cam's going to come back. The linebackers are better than what they were last year, which is a plus. The cornerback situation we know is a problem. I still don't understand why Desmond King's not getting more snaps. But it's just been stagnant, and I think we all just want to be able to see the organization actually really do a couple different directions on stuff and bring some new life and bring some new face and bring a fresh slate of just different minds into the organization. And it just feels like the status quo, man, and it sucks. Like it sucks. Like we're all on the same team. We're all fans. We all want the team to do well. We celebrate the wins, right? But even just in the wins, it's just there's still things where it's like, dude, like, you know, they it's still just not the wins that we want to see more of, right? Like we want to see some more complete wins. We want to not just see wins where the defense is winning them these games or where they're clawing out by the edge of their feet or they're getting lucky by some of the mishaps from the other team, right? Like you want to see some more completeness there, and we haven't seen that for a while. So it's not one of those things like, oh, they complain when they lose, they complain when they win. No, it's not that. Like dude, after we won on Sunday, I was hooting and hollering. I'm like, damn, that feels like that win felt great. Like even though that we probably should have lost that game and the Ravens lost that game more than we won that game, it still felt great because
Yeah.
going to the bye week, you're 3-2. This team's had a lot of struggle. Obviously, beating the Ravens, you're 2-0 in your division games. Yes, it feels great, but we all know the things that still have to change. And I was like, there still has to be some change coming out of the bye week. You cannot just stay where you've been at 5 games in and continuing to expect to win games like this.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's going to be a time where you face a team and they're going to make those plays. So you still have to do something. You still have to change something. You still have to come out of your bye week with something, man, because the Rams are not an easy task. The Jags are not an easy task. And the end of the schedule is a little rough. So you gotta do something there. And that's just what fans are just kind of tired of, man. They're tired of hearing that there's gonna be change and this and that and nothing's happening and you're just seeing the same game over and over again. And you have TJ and Highsmith playing their heart out, and we have guys on the offense just not helping them out. And the players are frustrated. Of course they are. Of course the players are fed up with stuff. Of course they're frustrated. Of course they want things to be better. Why wouldn't they? But it's just the fact that you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're keeping the same people over and over again, expecting there to be change, and there's not. And it's just you're not getting any change, and it's just the reality of it. Let's see, Jared Devil. I asked him if he went to the game. Let me see here. Let me see his answer. Best game I've been to, front row seats behind the bench on the 40. Surprisingly good weed in Pittsburgh too. Well, there you go, Daredevil. You got yourself. You got to watch yourself a crazy game and sweat it out, and you got to be high as a kite. So there you go. Glad you enjoyed your time, man. Glad you enjoyed your time at the game. You got to see a great ending. You got to see a lot of fun on the defense at the end of the game and be able to beat the Ravens. So I'm sure it was a lot of fun to be there, especially at the end.
Sometimes that's the only way you can watch the Steelers.
Yeah. Sometimes it is, man. I mean, my God. Steeler Freak says they should have built both trenches first before grabbing skill players. It's too late now, but I'm sure that will be the focus for the next 2-3 years. Meanwhile, Pickett either gets it or not. So pretty much saying regardless, they think that they think that will be the focus. That's something too. I think most people agree on is that the Steelers they really just kind of sat there and kept their line the way it was. They did bend kind of poorly in terms of being able to capitalize on a line, being able to invest as DeCastro and Pouncey were on their way out. And now they get Broderick Jones and they sign James Daniels, you sign Samalu, but you're still at a place where you're probably gonna have to draft somebody else and have them develop and stuff like that. They could go into free agency next year. Maybe they go grab you let Okorafor walk, you let go of that money, and maybe you go sign a right tackle or something like that. But it takes time for offensive lines to really develop. So Daniel, going into really is a little bit over an hour here. We'll talk about this real quick. We know it was a good feeling to beat the Ravens. We know the issues that are still with this team, and all we can do is sit back and see see what changes versus what doesn't change. Going to the bye week though, seeing that Deontay is going to be back, and them not playing this week and getting an extra week to play against the Rams. I'm still nervous about that Rams game, man, because our secondary's been exploited all year, and they got two darn good wide receivers there.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthew Stafford is not playing at a level in the sense where he was early, like the Super Bowl year or even with the Lions, but he's still making some plays. He's healthy. The Rams are a little bit of a fun team. I am concerned that Sean McVay is just going to outcoach Mike Tomlin. It's not even going to be close.
I mean, it's possible. But then again, I mean, Tomlin's been able to stop some pretty juggernaut offenses in his time. And, the 49ers, a lot of pieces on a new defense. So they needed some time to grow.
Mm-hmm.
The Texans game, they just laid an egg. Like they were just, I mean, when TJ Watt is getting blocked one-on-one by a wide receiver, they just may not be into it, which sucks because I was there at the game.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think they're going to come together. I think they're going to be all right. I don't foresee, hopefully, another blowout loss like that we've seen. But then again, I mean, the Ravens game could have fairly easily turned into.
It could have. Yeah, no, it really could have. I was actually sitting on my couch and I'm like, you know what? Like when our offense was just stagnant for 3 quarters and just nothing, and the Ravens were shooting themselves in the foot, I'm like, just end the game. Just end the game. And I'm glad they didn't. But our defense came alive in the 4th quarter, and our offense had a fantastic play at the end and stuff like that. So, but you're not gonna win. You're not gonna win games like that. So,
yeah,
everybody knows the offense, or not even the offense, just the team as a whole. Like, you cannot be betting off games of other teams screwing up and scoring 12 points. Like, we all know you can't be doing that. But it's hard to just have faith in the sense of things really ultimately getting better. I don't think anybody's expecting like anything crazy, but if you can come out and maybe offensive line has some better play and getting Deontay Johnson back, maybe once Freiermuth gets healthy, maybe you can kind of get a little bit of a groove going, kind of what we saw like last year. But it's just, I think just really at the end of the day, like if they can kind of get themselves to how they were last year coming out of the bye week, and long as their defense is doing what it's doing, they'll still win games, but it's not sustainable. And that's why, like, I feel like even if they win, let's say they win 10 games, even if they get in a playoff spot, like they're not going to make a run this year. it's not sustainable for a playoff type situation. And I'm sure we all would like to see that happen for them to be able to clinch a playoff berth and stuff like that. But you got to do something. You got to do something because you don't even have a rushing touchdown this year. You haven't been able to establish a running game consistently this season. And there's just been multiple problems. And if maybe it can get cleaned up. And if it gets cleaned up, it can help offset the defense a little better. And then maybe they can be a little more structured. And like I said, be able to win some games with that. But it's really just wait and see at that point. So it's definitely good they have a bye week right now, just being able to get a couple guys back, being able to regroup. But when you're in this stretch where you're not even halfway at the halfway point in the season yet, but once you hit that point and that last stretch, you got to be playing some good freaking football. And that's the thing. Are they going to or not? I don't really know. So, but I think it's funny because all of us as fans in the chat, you and I, online, around the world, we all have the same thought process. We all know what's wrong. We all know what needs to get better. All you can do is just let it play out. And that's how it happened. And that's how it is. Like, I think, hey, you can smooth out some ridges. Yeah, I think the team can win some games, man. I do. But it's just not a situation of being able to have long-term success on it.
Right.
This year.
I got one last question for you. If Mike Tomlin resigns, because I don't know if the Steelers will actually fire him, but let's just say he retires, he resigns. New coach comes in in the offseason. Kenny Pickett's still a starting quarterback, or do you think the Steelers are going to go out for a new coach who's going to else?
I think they'd give him a year. I think just investing the first round pick, I think they'd give it a year. Like let's say going into next year, Tomlin's on the last year of his contract. Let's say Kenny going into year 3 is what it is. Like nothing groundbreaking, but like nothing like bad, right? Does that make sense? Like it's just kind of there. Bringing in a new thing, they could draft one, but maybe they might just, given the fact it's a new coach and they're going to start implement new stuff, maybe they would just give it a year, kind of like a bridge thing. And then if it breaks out, then great. And if not, then you just go on. I could see
that happening.
Yeah, that's what I can see.
I can see that being the case. I can also see, if Tomlin's not there, this isn't the coach who drafted him.
Yeah.
And this isn't the general manager who drafted him. So if they wanted to move in a different direction, there's nothing holding them back.
Yeah. No, there's not. There's not. And like what I'm gonna say about him too is like I know there's a lot of frustrations with Kenny, like of just not really playing up to the first round pick right now, and just certain things that he's struggling with and things like that. I think really at the end of the day, the people that are more harder on him than maybe some others, like I think they still want him to do well. They just want to see more at this rate. And I don't think it's all on him. Like I think we all can agree he is getting held back with certain stuff. But it was more so for me, like him coming into this year. Like this is what I'm saying. I didn't expect the offense to be where it needed to be this year. I expected it to be a little better than last year, but I still expected it to be held back. And it was just more so for me, like, look, I want to just see Kenny be able to play well at the stuff he can control. And the things that he can do that aren't really hindered by anybody else. And there hasn't really been he's still has had the problems of the stuff that are on him, if that makes sense, rather than like he's making the plays right. But it's like, dude, like we just need somebody in there to freaking fully get him going. More so right now, it's more so like, okay, he's doing some stuff here, but there's also bad here. And then he's being held back by all this as well. So it's not really a good situation. I was like more so, okay, I expect this year we're going to see even more good than last year, but we know he's still going to be held back by offensive personnel. That's out of his control. That was kind of my expectation. But I still believe in him. I'm still going to believe in him until it's at the point where, okay, like I think we all, gonna like go on. But I think at least a little bit, I think I think a little bit like he's doing some things better than what we saw the first few games, but it's still not where it needs to be in the sense of being able to get the offense up to par a little bit. So I don't know. I want him to do well. I think we all do, but it's one of those things like, hey, if he doesn't really transition too well, then whether Tomlin's still here or not, then maybe you move on after you give him time because you gave him that first round pick.
Here's my problem with it, and my real problem, I guess, like with Kenny Pickett up to this point is that Texans game, man. When I went back and watched the film, I saw C.J. Stroud doing things that Kenny Pickett has not shown that he's able to do.
Right.
Hitting players on time and anticipatory throws, reading the defense, hitting weak parts of the zone, passing off of concepts. There was a situation where, they were playing man beaters and the Steelers ran zone on one side, man on the other. And his primary read was the zone because he went over here and he looked at the zone and he looked at it just briefly, realized that wasn't the concept, and then came over here and then got the guy right. And I mean, it could have been vice versa, that it was man and he was, zone on one side and he was throwing to the zone. But he was able to do those things. He comes off of, his first reads pretty quickly. If it's not there, he realizes it and moves on. And he also understands, from what I have seen, is like when to hold on to that first, read. If it's going to take a little bit more time to develop, I've seen him do that. And just in that one game. And to me, I just saw a quarterback that was several leagues above what we have. Like, it's not the same. It just really isn't. And you have this guy who is 26 years old or something like that. Yeah, C.J. Stroud, 21. This guy's been in the, Kenny Pickett's been in the league a year, has 17 games under his belt. C.J. Stroud was in his fourth game. Yeah. And so, it's just, I know I got a little bit of like quarterback envy there. I was like, man,
I understand. Yeah, I get it.
I wish our guy could do some of these things. And then the throws, the accurate throws while running and off balance throws. I think Kenny Pickett can throw somewhat accurately on the run. I think his accuracy is great as a lot of people think. A lot of people think that, especially like those back shoulder passes, that he's doing that on purpose on most of them. I think some of the ones that are like down the sideline, that's the case. But like that interception with Nelson over, when he was throwing into Calvin Austin, I heard a bunch of saying, "Oh man, he threw a back shoulder pass on that one." It's like, I don't think he did. He meant to throw it in front of him. He just didn't have it just didn't get there. You know what I mean? And I think that, like I said, to the eye test and watching him going up against the other quarterbacks. I mean, when you had Brock Purdy in week 1, I mean, it looked like a freaking 5-year veteran playing against a rookie in his first start who had
it wasn't even close.
Yeah, it was bad. The way, the decision making, the speed and the processing, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. And Deshaun Watson in week 2, he sucks, so that's not a comparable. But, C.J. Stroud, he wasn't supposed to be. And, C.J. Stroud was out there looking like he was the guy that's been in the league for a little bit. And then even this past week against Lamar, and Lamar is not a good quarterback. I mean, he was making some pretty good reads, but he was throwing the ball like Tim Tebow. Like the ball was just fluttering, both of them.
He had some bad throws. Yeah, he had some bad throws.
Yeah, and I mentioned that to you, during the game. I was like, is this game windy? Because the balls are not traveling the way they're supposed to. And, even Lamar Jackson looked like a better pocket passer in this game, comparable. So it's just, that's my problem with it. When people say, why are you a hater? What do you hate him? I don't hate him. One thing, I'm not. I want him to succeed. It's just, it's hard for me to see that when I'm breaking down film and I'm looking at both quarterbacks of every game that I've seen. This year especially. Last year I didn't break down film. So I can't tell you one way or another. But this year so far, outside of Deshaun Watson, it's been like
getting outplayed.
He's getting outplayed at every aspect of the game. Accuracy, reading the defense pre-snap, reading the defense post-snap, finding the weak parts of the defense, hitting players with on the second read, hitting players with anticipation. Like all of those is just subpar. And I just don't see it. I'll be honest with you. I feel that if the Steelers don't go a different route this offseason, then it's just going to be a wasted year next year.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's definitely a handful of reasons, I think, in terms of concern, in terms of even doubt. For sure. No, there definitely is. The thing with the Steelers is that it's hard to just see them be in a position where they can draft a high quarterback.
Yeah, they can. They got to give up some things and do some things that they've never done, like maybe give up a couple of first rounders. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't see this team progressing past the first round of the playoffs. I think that they can get there.
I agree. Yeah,
but they're not going past the first round.
No.
So
yeah,
we're looking at like 15 to 18, somewhere around there in the draft. The Steelers aren't playing well. If they give up another draft pick to move up, and another team thinks that perhaps the Steelers are going to have another bad year, the following year they might be willing to do something, thinking that they're going to capitalize, something similar to like what the Steelers did with Chicago. They got a second round pick and it'll be number 32. A team is probably going to look at the Steelers and say that there's the more likelihood of their pick being top 15 the following year than, for instance, maybe some of the other teams that they're going to be possibly trading with. So that could be attractive for a potential trade partner. But they're going to have to do some things that they're not accustomed to doing to get.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's hard. It's hard to think of the organization of doing that.
Yeah,
because that's not their way of doing things. Now maybe with some new faces in there, new management, maybe there might be some stuff like that. I really don't know. I think depending how, I still think it's. I still think just given the fact that they took him the first round, I could see them giving him the 4 years. And maybe not picking up the 5th-year option, possibly if it's not going the way you wanted it to.
Yeah,
just given their track record on how that they approach stuff and everything like that, and their mentality with things. Depends on upcoming quarterback classes, things like that. But yeah, no, I get the frustrations too, man. Like it's not just Matt Canada. It's kind of really an all around type thing as well. I think Matt Canada is the common denominator at the end of the day, but there's still things there that need to get better, even aside from him. So I'm all for bringing somebody new in, giving them a new voice, a new type guy to try to maybe help them. But that's what I said. Like if it doesn't work out, then
if the Steelers bring in a guy, it cannot be a Mitch Trubisky type. Like that was a fail too. Like, come on.
For what?
I think that like a Mitch Trubisky, like that was not anywhere near an answer. He wasn't even a bridge guy. He should not have even been a mentor.
No,
right?
No.
I felt that if you're going to go with somebody like Mitch Trubisky, might as well have stayed with Mason Rudolph.
Right.
And maybe perhaps draft somebody like they did. They had Oladokin, they had Kenny Pickett and Oladokin drafted. I would have gone into that season last year with Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and Oladokin as the quarterbacks. And if Mason and Kenny were the same, I've said it this entire last year, throw them in. Put him in as the number one guy come week one. Let him go through his struggles and let's figure out where he's at.
Yeah,
he was older rookie.
I agree.
He was supposed to have a high floor, low ceiling, so he was supposed to be somewhat pro ready. Let's see what he has. And, if he can't do it, Mason Rudolph knows his offense a hell of a lot better than what Mitch Trubisky did. If he needs somebody to mentor behind, maybe that's the guy that knows the offense and that can kind of tell him like, hey, this is what, Canada likes, dislikes, this is the routes or whatever the case may be. And, build off of that. But, if they're going to go out there and get a new quarterback and it's like Kirk Cousins, like, don't expect anything much. I mean, we might make a playoff appearance with Kirk Cousins, but that's probably it.
It's just that's the thing, man. Like I think it's easier to find quarterbacks. Like I've said this to my friend too. Like it's still hard to find like franchise guys. Like I don't use that term franchise quarterback loosely. I don't. It's still hard to find franchise quarterbacks that are going to be your quarterback for 15 plus years. But I think it's easier to find quarterbacks that you can get to be a solid to good quarterback Sometimes you just have to help them out. Sometimes you have to surround them with some different talent. But that was kind of my hope for Kenny. Could he still get there? Sure, anything's possible. But with where things are at right now, yeah, like there's things that there's spots he hasn't gotten to yet that I think we all expected him to get to, and he hasn't yet.
I mean, even at that, like if you have a non-franchise guy, right, or a guy that doesn't have special talents, when was the last guy that's not a franchise guy, that's not a special talent guy to win the Super Bowl? Nick Foles,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you know, how long was that? Like 6 years ago,
17,
something like that. Yeah. So
yeah.
you know, it's not happening. You have to have a guy at quarterback if you want to expect to play or get to the Super Bowl.
If you want to contend, that's the thing. Like you look at the Cowboys with Dak, right? I think Dak's a solid quarterback. He's not elite. He's never gotten himself to that point. With where he's at, he is what he is. He's a guy that can win you games. He's a guy that can get you to the playoffs, but he hasn't broken through. And where he's at is probably where he is gonna be. And Dallas falls short in the playoffs every single time. First round, second round, right? You can go through multiple teams that find themselves in the playoffs more consistently, than not. But you're right. Like being able to get a guy that's going to be your quarterback for 15 or more years, that's where you find Super Bowl type wins from.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to find. Yeah. But sometimes also you can hit luck. I think the Chargers did. I think Justin Herbert I think he's great. I think he's going to continue to be great. Now, will they win a Super Bowl with him? I don't know. I don't trust the Chargers organization. I don't like their head coach or anything like that. But I think Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. I think that he's going to be somebody that's going to be their quarterback for years and years.
Yeah,
and they got lucky right after Phillip Rivers.
I agree. And well, maybe not so much. They took him really early in the draft. I think a lot of people thought that he was overdrafted, and same thing with Mahomes. A lot of people thought he was way overdrafted. Going into that season, I think he was projected to be a fifth round pick. And, he had a good season that year. A lot of people, they opened their eyes his last year before he ended up going into the draft. And they had a big arm, and he ended up getting taken, I think, fifth overall by the Chiefs, somewhere around there.
He was, I think he was like 12th or 13th.
Was he?
Yeah, he didn't get taken because Mitch, that was the year Mitch got drafted to the Bears and went second. And the Chiefs had like the 12th or 13th pick and took him.
Right. Well, I mean, he wasn't expected to go that high, regardless. And they found him, and I think the Chiefs moved up to get him. I'm gonna make sure, because 15 doesn't sound right, because I know that there's been that saying that no first round quarterback drafted outside of 15 hasn't done well. So it could have been earlier than that. It could have been like 14, like you said, but I could have swore it was in the top 10. I could be wrong.
They might have moved up.
Let's see. Mahomes was the second quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Well, what freaking 10th overall? Yeah, he was 10th overall.
There you go.
So they moved up in the top 10 to get him, and he was projected, even going into that draft, was a late first, early second round pick by majority of analysts and scouts. Like, you look at Brock Purdy, he was the last player picked in last year's draft. It's hard to determine who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. But if you end up knowing that you don't have a guy that's going to turn into something like that, then what are you doing? If you're trying to win a Super Bowl, and you're not trying to just find that guy, then you're just trying to stay relevant enough to put seats in butts in seats and make a paycheck because you're going to be somewhat relevant.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not sure if I like the way they're doing this, or the way it's going. I'm the kind of person that I'm like, hey, I give a quarterback a couple of years, maybe 3, if he doesn't show that he has some qualities, by the end of the second starting year, and I'm probably looking for somebody else. And, is it too soon? Is it this? you giving up too soon? Probably, possibly on people, but majority, I don't think so. The majority of the quarterbacks that come through, you either see it right away or you don't. Mahomes, you can tell right away. Herbert, you can tell right away. Jalen Hurt, however you say his last name.
Hurts,
He was a guy, yeah, he was a guy that didn't come out too well, but he progressed in his second season.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like his second year wasn't like anything like special, but like there was a good jump like after 2020.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you're not seeing that and you're not seeing progression in the manner that you want,
Mm-hmm.
what makes you think it's going to change? Like you remember how it's like one is happenstance, two is a pattern or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got like 17 games of this now. Blame the offensive coordinator, fire his ass, get him out of there. I just don't know who you're going to put in there that's going to change this team around if there are some certain struggles. And when it comes to Kenny, the main thing that was supposed to make him good, right, was the fact that he was cool under pressure and that he was able to make those throws under pressure. And I haven't seen that. He's been bailing out of clean pockets more than he did last season. And his throws have been affected by pressure. So if the one thing that made him good is kind of coming out to be not that, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I hear you. There's definitely, there's a lot of valid things there. I even think like Justin Fields, he's in year 3 and his last 2 games have been great. And in those 2 games, he showed like he can do some things. I don't think with him, I just think he's in a bad situation with Chicago. I think he's held back a lot. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's got a little bit of a better arm than people think. But his first 2 years were crap. I even think that they need to get him in a better spot even after this year. But I've seen enough from him where like right now, these last 2 games, I've seen enough like, okay, this guy can do this. How much can he do it? Because he hasn't put it on a consistent season yet. But like for me, I gravitate more toward, okay, I'm seeing that. I want to see him in a better situation with somebody that can try to get the best out of that for him. If it doesn't work out, then okay. If he's not able to give you that on a consistent basis, then okay. Then you maybe go in a different direction. So with Justin Fields, I think there's talent there. I really do. I just think the Bears are a freaking disaster, man. And so that's kind of another thing too. Like the Bears are sticking with him. He was pretty crappy the first few games. Like, oh, Caleb Williams this, Caleb Williams that. Okay, he blows up his next 2, does well, but how much will he be able to do it? I think that he's hindered a little bit too in Chicago. So I think with them, like they'll keep him. Maybe they'll try to get him a better situation. But like if they're not able to really get enough out of him, maybe they'll move on. But yeah, that's the thing with the quarterbacks is that different players develop at different rates, but quarterback's your most important position. And I think 3 years is a good number for a quarterback. Like when you draft somebody, I think 3 years is a good number. Like in terms of being able to see what you have and being able to try to get what you can out of them. And then if it's at a point where it is what it is, then So like Jared Devil says, I'm giving Kenny another full year. Allen had 3 to get better. I don't see why we can't either. Different levels of talent, but the argument remains the same. Yeah, like we all know Josh Allen was a really good prospect, had a lot of high-end things, had also a lot of raw things. So yeah, same argument, definitely different talent and everything. I'm all for giving Kenny like a new system, a new coach to work with. Maybe they try to invest a little bit more on the offense this season or after this year. And then you kind of go from there. The good thing is that he's on a rookie deal. And if you end up moving off, you move off. We're not Cleveland where we're paying Deshaun Watson $250 million and the guy's cleared to play, but he's still not playing.
Right. No, and I get it.
Thank God for that. Thank God.
And I completely get all those things. Now, here's the thing, though. If you have a guy who is struggling reading defenses and isn't progressing, then you go look at his, what is it called, Wonderlic score or whatever it is, the football IQ test coming in, and got a 17.
Yeah.
Those things kind of equal together, right? You have somebody who isn't very high in IQ when it comes to football, and you're seeing low quality play matched with average talent, arm strength and stuff, right? That's what we're seeing. Now, when it comes to, like, for instance, Josh Allen, he had a tremendous amount of talent. Maybe perhaps where he was coming out of college wasn't the best place for him, to develop him as a quarterback, but he got 108 on his Wonderlic score. So you can see that, all right, he has talent. Now he just needs to learn the system. Does he have the ability to learn the system? Right now, does that score automatically mean that you're going to be a great player or not, or any of those things? No, absolutely not. But I think that if you have a low score plus low performance plus low, progression, that equals out to a problem. Now, Patrick Mahomes, 108. Brock Purdy was 95. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah, I get it.
And as far as, like, he won't play until he's allowed. I got you. I'm okay with giving him another year. I just think that if we do, we're setting ourselves up bad. I think the Steelers shouldn't have gotten a quarterback last year. It should have happened this year. They should have. That's just my opinion. I thought the class was weak last season. It's come to fruition. It's not a strong class. I think Richardson's probably one of the better ones, and he's always hurt. Brock Purdy is the most successful so far, right? And that's it. The rest of the guys have kind of been like, eh. But when you also look at, like, for instance, Fields, he hasn't done well up to this point. He's had a couple of games where he's showing up. He also got a 130 on his, IQ thing coming in. So there's promise there that he has the ability to learn the system and maintain it, and has the ability to process and things of that nature. It's just about coaching it up. I just think you have a problem when you have a guy that, no offense, is like a frat dude. When I look at Kenny Pickett, he's out there shotgunning beers with Luke Combs and, drinking beers on the golf course, the whole 9 yards. I mean, to me, I see a guy that's a frat guy in college, probably. I mean, not a frat guy, but like that type of person, like, hey, dude, what's up? Let's take it easy, have a few beers. And that may not be who he is. He may be the guy that, the Steelers claim to have an office and in there constantly trying to work on his craft. That could be him. I'm just not seeing it translate on the field.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Yeah. No, it's fair, man. I get it. It's definitely going to be, depending on how this year finishes, it'll probably be another topic of conversation at the end of the season. Yeah, no, man, you're not alone. I think most fans, it's not that they don't want him to do well. It's just more so they want to be able to see more, especially at this rate and with where he was at coming out of college and everything. So I know time will tell. Time will ultimately tell, but I do think that, and I believe George said a little bit earlier, Steelers do have a chance to stay in front of their division after the bye week. Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. They got to come out. They got to stay healthy. They got to come out, play these teams well, continue to keep playing good defense, get a little bit better secondary. If you can just find yourself getting into that offense where you were after the bye week, I think everybody would take that. I really do.
Yeah.
I think everybody would take that, because not that, like I said, and like what you said, Dan, you're not going to have a playoff run with that, but you still could, of course it will be better, but you could find yourself winning 10 games and getting a playoff spot out of that. And time will tell, but I think anybody would take that at this rate.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't mean to like pile on Pickett. It's just he's in the most important position that's on the team.
Yeah.
Like his position solely is going to determine whether or not this team is successful or not. You can have, Deontay Johnson went down. He's not going to hurt the team as much as your quarterback not being up to par. Your running back not being up to par is not going to hurt the team as much as the quarterback. The quarterback has the most, his play is going to affect the rest of the team the most. Yeah. And when that's the situation, you have guys like George Pickens who you think George Pickens is going to want to re-sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers when he's on the sideline saying things like, man, I love it here, but this ain't where it's at. he ain't gonna want to come back, unless there's something changing and there's the balls going everywhere. In fact, I felt a little worried because he made the statement that he had offers to Alabama and all these other places, but he chose Georgia because he felt that was a team that was going to win and go to the championship, and they built a good team around him. I can't say the same about the Pittsburgh Steelers today, and if, he wants to win, he wants the ball, he wants to score, and he's showing these diva tendencies, he's not going to be here long.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose a possibly generational talent. Like, when I look at George Pickens, I honestly see a possibility of Randy Moss out there, tall, fast, speedy, jump up, catch the ball, and, contested catch ability throughout the roof. But I mean, shoot, it took Tom Brady to get Randy Moss to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, quarterback's important.
Yeah. No, it is. I hear you, man. I hear you. And I think we all can agree on that. So hopefully they take this bye week and maybe some type of change can come out of it. Hopefully maybe it can be a little replication of last year. Not that last year was anything great, but it was better. And hopefully we can see that this year or them coming out of it this year. So I don't know. The coaches see it. Coaches know it just as us fans know it, but it's on to them to be able to make adjustments and be able just to try the most they can get out of the talent. So, I think talent's there with this team. There's obviously things that still lack. There's coaching issues. But if they can have a good run, you never know what can happen. But if they can just get, I don't know. I don't even know offensively. Like, just run the ball more, play more effectively. Don't turn it over. Do some things similar that you were able to do last year. You might be able to do something, make it worthwhile come the final stretch of the season. So I don't know, but Daniel, you good end it there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
I got to get going.
I gotta get. Yeah, me too, man. So all you guys in the chat, we appreciate all your guys' support and seeing you guys in there and putting all your thoughts out there, guys. So Daniel and I think we're going to try to start doing shows on Wednesday, right? And where we can talk about the previous game and then talk about the upcoming game, just because sometimes it's hard with my schedule or his schedule being able to do two shows consistently. So keep an eye out for Wednesdays, guys. Next show will be on his channel at Say the Steelers, which I know pretty much all you guys are there. If you're not, tune in there. Daniel puts out good content, breaks down stuff each and every week. But we appreciate your guys' support. Jared Devil, you're right. Pro tip for the offense, get good. Yep, you have this week and you have going into next week to be able to try to get something rolling. We'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. So week 6, still early, but you know what? The season's going to go by quick. So we'll see what they got in them. We'll see what they can pull out. But at the end of the day, all we can do is wait and see. So thank you all for your support, guys. We'll see you next week on Daniel's channel. And in the meantime, by that time, we'll be talking about Steelers versus Rams. We'll see you guys later.